As the air quality risk is moving in a positive direction, some are concerned how this could actually affect our 4th of July weekend.
Depending on an individual's health risk, experts are saying to keep the outdoor activities to a minimum and choose less intense activities. Samantha Cavalli joins us now live in Green Bay with what experts are saying about your weekend plans. Samantha.
Yeah, Bill and Cami, for this upcoming holiday weekend, communications specialist for the Brown County Health Department, Claire Paprocki, says to be mindful of those who have lung or heart disease, asthma, COPD, or who are pregnant, as they are at the most risk this upcoming weekend with the air quality advisory, but also to be cautious and hopefully not have so much time outside and reduce that. The biggest question the Brown County Health Department has received from the public:
what should I do for, XYZ activity? She
says they are not telling people to cancel their plans, but to encourage people to make slight alterations to their outdoor activities or even rescheduling, depending on their personal situation, to keep everyone safe.
If you have a group of really young children who are playing soccer outdoors, maybe considering turning a 30-minute game into a 15-minute game. If you are working with the elderly population and you had maybe like yoga or something planned for outdoors, moving that indoors instead.
Paprocki says try and avoid strenuous outdoor activities, but if you do plan to be outdoors, keep the activity short or take breaks.
So, instead of being outdoors for 6 hours, maybe you're outdoors for only 2 hours. So if you're a runner and you like to run outside, maybe consider shortening your run or walking instead so you don't breathe as hard.
She said, as we're coming up to the holiday weekend, monitor the situation on the airnow.gov website that we've been showing throughout the week.
So as you're starting to make plans for the weekend or for the holiday, just making sure that you're checking the air quality index and then planning accordingly based on, whatever it is that you're going to be doing.
And Paprocki said that if you're outside and you feel dizzy or you have any kind of shortness of breath or fatigue, to then call your doctor. She also mentioned that heat and the air quality are not a very good mixture. So just to be sure to monitor all the conditions while you're outside this holiday weekend. Reporting live in Green Bay, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.